Minecraft 1.21.9, the Copper Age update, is out now, so let's take a look at all of the brand new features. And as this update's called the Copper Age, we're going to be starting with the brand new copper features. And these first features will be essential for early game Minecraft, as if we look through some caves, you'll notice one of the most common ores that we will find in early game Minecraft is copper ore. See, we've got some here, and I'm sure if I continue down this cave, we'll see some more as well. But before this update, copper was seen more as a building block, whereas now it's used in a whole load of brand new ways. So if I head over to the crafting table with some copper ingots and some sticks, you'll see that we will be able to create brand new copper tools. So we can create the pickaxe, axe, shovel, hoe, along with the sword, and then we can also create ourselves the full set of copper armor. Copper armor gives you more protection than leather armor, but less than gold armor. However, it has more durability than gold armor, but less than chainmail and iron armor, which means it's perfect for early game, which is what copper armor and tools is intended for. Which means that the progression system has finally been updated. It now goes from wooden, to stone, to copper, to iron, to diamond, and then to netherite. But honestly, this copper gear is pretty good, with it doing the same amount of damage as the stone variants. However, it actually is quicker to mine with the copper tools. However, once again, it is slower than iron tools, meaning you will still need to progress. And taking a look at the ores we can successfully mine coal, iron, and copper, and we can't mine gold with the copper tools, which means you will have to upgrade to iron in order to mine gold. Now, if you have like an end game Minecraft world, you don't really need to bother with all of these new copper tools and armor, as you'll have the full netherite stuff. But if you're starting a brand new world, this will be very useful. However, the next features of the Copper Age that we'll be taking a look at will be great for building. And we'll be starting with a brand new torch variant. This is the copper torch. But to craft a copper torch, you will need another brand new item, which simply heading to the crafting table, you will need 1 copper ingot to create 9 copper nuggets. Alternatively, you'll actually be able to smelt copper armor and tools in the furnace to create these copper nuggets. But once you have these nuggets, they have a few different uses. First, using a stick, a piece of coal, and a copper nugget, you'll be able to craft the brand new copper torches, which have a green color to them. However, they do light up exactly the same as a regular torch does, which means it's just another nice variant to have for torches in your Minecraft world. As the other two variants we have, the soul torch and the redstone torch, actually light up less, whereas the copper one will do the exact same amount as a regular torch. Now with 1 copper torch and 8 copper nuggets, you'll be able to craft another brand new block, the copper lantern. Honestly, one of my favorite additions to this update, as it doesn't just come in one variant. Taking a look at the creative inventory, you will see that there are actually now 8 different copper lantern variants. We've got the 4 regular ones, we've got copper lantern, exposed lantern, weathered and oxidized, as well as the waxed variants as well, which means they won't be able to oxidize over time. Whereas if I just place a regular copper lantern or an exposed lantern, over time it will slowly level up the stages until the oxidized copper lantern at the end. And similar to the copper torches, these will give off the exact same light as a regular lantern. However, it actually doesn't decrease in brightness with the oxidization levels. That is still unique to the bulb block. Instead, the oxidized lantern will give off the same as a regular lantern. But it's not just lanterns that got a brand new variant, as if we head back into the crafting table, with 2 copper nuggets and an ingot, you'll be able to craft yourself up a brand new copper chain. And once again, there are now 8 variants of these copper chains, the 4 regular ones, and then the 4 waxed ones as well. That also does introduce a change, as now, the chain crafted with iron nuggets and iron ingots will now be called the iron chain. But as you can see, these chains sort of look exactly how you'd expect them to look, just like the iron ones, but retextured to have this orange for regular copper, sort of a brown colour for the exposed, then turning blue for the weathered and oxidized ones. And once again, these are great blocks and they work really well alongside the lanterns. And of course, you can place them on their side as well. Next up, we have another brand new copper variant, which is the copper bars. And to craft the copper bars, all you will need is 6 copper ingots. However, if you are currently playing Minecraft in a version before the Copper Age, you may notice that 6 copper ingots currently makes 2 copper trapdoors. However, that recipe has been changed in this new update, as now to craft a copper trapdoor, you will only need 4 ingots and it will create 1 trapdoor. But now that you have 6 copper ingots and have updated, you'll be able to craft these brand new copper bars, which obviously oxidize once again. And the same with the lanterns and chains. To oxidize these over time, you just need to lay an unwaxed one on the ground, and over time it will slowly age into a new variant. And then obviously, if you get the variant you want, you can just get yourself a piece of honeycomb to wax it. And then if you want to remove the wax for whatever reason, you can just scrape it. And that works the same with the oxidization levels as well. You can just scrape it away to get whichever texture you want. Before I move on to any other features of this update, make sure to subscribe. And whilst we have loads of new blocks to check out, there are some more things I want to take a look at first. Starting with a feature exclusive to Minecraft Java Edition. If you press F3 and F6, you will open a brand new menu, which modifies what the debug screen looks like. And that's another update within this version. The F3 screen now looks a bit different. As you can see, it's more spaced out and everything, but with F3 and F6, you'll be able to modify it. For example, you'll be able to turn everything on once you have F3 pressed down. For example, we'll just turn on loads of these random things. And then there'll also be debug renders, so we can also turn on chunk borders and hitboxes and things like that. As you can see, it does become a lot laggier, but that's only with F3 open, so if I press F3 once again, it goes away. However, F3, F6, you can actually turn it always on as well. So if I close F3, you'll see that there is some information, such as the Minecraft biome that we're in. And this does come with different options as well, such as default profile, which will reduce the amount of clutter on your screen, sort of showing the basic things you'll need, such as the coordinates, the direction you're facing, as well as the Minecraft version you're playing in, and your FPS and things like that. Or you can go back into F3, F6, and do performance profile, and it will give you the bare minimum, just showing like your computer's GPU, the memory, as well as the FPS. But honestly, this is a really great feature, in my opinion, as it just allows you to customize the F3 screen to your liking. For example, if you want to have coordinates on at all times, you will now be able to do that. And as you can see, it will now show our coordinates, even though F3 is disabled. And if you make any changes you don't like, you can always just press back on default profile or performance profile, depending on which one you like. Another fun feature of this is that there is now a search screen in it, so you know exactly what you're searching for. For example, position, you'll be able to toggle it on, or FPS. And this is also carried across to the resource pack menu, as you will now be able to search for different resource packs. For example, if I have any vanilla tweaks, you can search vanilla tweaks, or subscribe and it will show my resource packs. Another brand new block that we got in this update are copper variants for the lightning rod. Before, Minecraft obviously had the lightning rod, being this one color. However, now it can oxidize over time, as it's really useful for building. We've now got the exposed, weathered, and oxidized ones as well, and you just need to leave your lightning rod out in the open, making sure it's unwaxed so it can age over time, and obviously you can wax it at any stage you want as well. But these are going to be so good for building with. And these do all attract lightning in the same way as a default lightning rod would. But now let's take a look at the biggest part of this update, the brand new mob, the copper golem. Now, if you're in creative mode, you can just get the brand new copper golem spawn egg, which is a really nice texture, and just spawn the copper golems in. However, you'll be able to obviously summon it in survival as well. And all you will need is one copper block of your choice, as it can be any stage, as well as a carved pumpkin, and as soon as you place it on, it will summon the color copper golem, as well as a brand new copper chest as well. Now, whilst all of these copper golems look different, they work in the exact same way, and they can actually interact with any of these chests. For example, we'll just leave the exposed one, and you will see that all of the copper golems will eventually walk to this one, as copper golems have a brand new, really interesting property to them. And just ignore that guy for a minute, we'll take a look at him later. So the main function of the copper golem is going to be storage. So if I spawn a copper golem in, and I will add half a stack of oxidized copper blocks to this chest, and then I'll leave this chest empty, you will see that this copper golem will pick up the oxidized copper blocks, only 16 at a time, and he will place it inside of the empty chest. However, if I then add half a stack of regular blocks of copper, he will pick it up, but he won't be able to put it in the chest as there are no blocks of copper. So he will get confused and go off searching for a different chest. For example, I'll place that chest here, and once he eventually figures out where another chest is, he will walk over to it. However, if a copper golem's got a block you don't want it to have, you can just click on it to make him drop it. But if he goes back in here, he'll select these copper blocks. Once he starts searching again, as you can see, he'll choose these copper blocks as they're before the oxidized ones in the menu, but he can't put it in. So let's put one copper block, and then he will finally be able to sort. He'll once again take 16 oxidized copper and move it over to this chest. So the main point of a copper golem is to easily sort things out. So I can just add loads of random items to the copper chest, and the copper golem will walk back and forth between the chest trying to sort items. For example, it will only take 16 at a time. So as you can see, it will take 16 of those copper blocks, and he will put it in this regular chest, as there are copper blocks in here. However, as soon as he moves on to a different stack, such as these exposed ones, you will see that it will take the exposed ones, but he won't be able to add it to this chest as there are no exposed ones in the chest. So obviously I can just add a random chest somewhere else, and he will go for that one instead. Now once again, there are 8 variants of the copper golem, the 4 default ones, and then if I grab out an axe and some honeycomb, we'll actually be able to wax and de-age them. For example, waxing him will make him a permanent weathered copper golem, meaning he won't age. But then you can scrape the wax off him and then scrape the layers off of him to decrease the oxidization levels. Although this does nothing, they'll also organize the same as before, and they also do drop a few copper ingots on death. However, it is the final stage of a copper golem that is the most interesting. So if I just summon a few oxidized copper golems, you will see that they will just walk around for a bit. However, over time, as you can see, they will just suddenly stop in place and become a brand new block for copper golem statue. And as you can see, when they do freeze, they'll have a different pose as well. So let's watch this guy, and he sits down when he freezes. As this is another brand new block the update introduces, 8 brand new copper golem statues. So we'll grab out the 4 waxed ones and place them down, as obviously they can come in any age. To get them though, you will need an oxidized copper golem to freeze in place. But they all have really interesting properties. Clicking on them will actually make them into different poses. For example, clicking on them once will sit them down, twice will make them have a running animation, and 3 will make them sort of doing like a star jump animation, which is a really cool design. And obviously they will all freeze in place in different stages, but if you don't want it to be an oxidized copper golem statue, you can just scrape it with an axe until you get to the final copper stage, where you'll be able to scrape it once more and turn it into a copper golem once again, which obviously that will soon age into the exposed, weathered, and then oxidized to get the final form. And another fun property of the copper golem statues is they give off a different redstone signal depending on the pose. For example, this is the default one, and we click it again, it will light that next lantern, then the next one, and then the final one for the final pose. Another fun part about these statues is whichever stage you break it and pick it up in will depend on how you get it in the inventory. For example, we've got this standing up one now as an item, so if I place him down, he will always be stood up. But if I change it to a sat down one, I will get another sat down one. And they do stack as well. And they all have these really unique designs when thrown on the ground as well, which just helps for further decoration in your Minecraft worlds. Now, before I focus on one of the best new additions to this update, let's first take a look at another feature of this update. And this feature is the copper horse armor, which obviously can be equipped to your horse. And it gives it this really cool design. I love the little blue bit on it as well, where the saddle is. We can take the saddle off and have a closer look. I just think that's a really nice design. And the copper horse armor isn't actually craftable. It can only be found in loot in similar places to where you'd find iron horse armor, so such as like desert temples or dungeons or similar structures like that. And obviously this does give extra protection to the horse as well. But now let's take a look at one of my favorite features of the update, a brand new block known as the shelf. Now, to actually obtain the shelf, you will need 6 stripped logs, stems, or bamboo of your choice. For example, we can create 6 warped ones, or 6 bamboo shelves, or 6 mangrove shelves from 6 stripped logs, which is a really good crafting recipe, by the way. And these are going to be so good for building and just survival in general. As you can see, they've got these really cool designs to them, as well as really cool back designs as well, almost looking a bit like vertical slabs. Then you can place them in like a square like this, or just using them in decorations. And I'm going to be uploading a whole video soon covering like build ideas you can do with these shelves, but just look how cool they look. And obviously the best part about this is the fact that you can place items inside them, as there are actually 3 different parts to this shelf design. So if I look at the furthest left one, I can place my sword in there, or the middle one, I can place my sword there, or I can place my sword in the right one. And then obviously you can store up to 3 different stacks of items. For example, I'll take a stack of pumpkin pie and another stack of jacket potatoes, and you'll be able to store 3 stacks of block or items inside of this one shelf block, which is a really cool feature, as well as stackable items as well. And you can just click on it to take your items out, or you can just swap items between it. For example, if I want a cake in the middle, I can just click on it to swap it out. Now, this can be controlled by redstone as well. For example, if you put redstone behind all of these blocks, they will change texture. But if I quickly grab myself a pickaxe and I'll break one redstone block, you will see that the design is changed. So these 2 are connected. However, this final one is, you can only connect shelves up to 3 long. However, this works as a hotbar swapper. So if I look at this sword, click, it will swap out my whole hotbar. If I look at its furthest right one, it will swap out my hotbar correctly. So it basically goes, this one here connects to the number 9 slot. This water bucket goes into the number 9 slot. This stake goes into the number 5 slot. This sword goes into the number 1 slot. No matter where I click it, it will swap exactly how it is. And it will also swap out however my hotbar is organized. So I'll put pumpkin pie at 5, the diamond pickaxe at 9. Click anywhere on it, the diamond pickaxe will end up in 9. And for pumpkin pie in 5, which is a really cool feature. And I just love the fact that we now have the ability to have a hotbar swapper in survival mode. It's going to be really good. But whilst they're going to be great for storing items, I think honestly I'm going to be using them so much more for building, as they just look so incredible, especially like the back design of it. If we look over here, we get loads of brand new textures, as obviously it comes in all wood variants. As you can see, we've got oak, spruce, birch, all the way to the nether ones, the bamboo ones. These are all going to be just so good for building, especially because they all have their own unique designs as well. So I really like the back of his spruce one. Same with his pale one. Same with all of them, to be honest. And they're also very easy to craft, which is nice. The only difficult bit, obviously, is you will need to strip the log first. Another fun thing is you can store your copper golem statues inside them as well. Now, another feature of this update is a brand new retexture. Heading into the creative inventory and searching up dye, you will see that all of the dye textures have now been changed. And honestly, I really like these new designs. They're much easier to tell apart now. As before, some of them look the same. Like pink and lime dye looked the same before, just different colors. However, now they all have their own unique designs, and we can place them in the shelf to get a clearer look, and honestly they look so cool. I'll zoom in my FOV as well. I really like that lime one, and they're all on these little sort of paint pads or something, and I just think it's a really cool design. But obviously this update does come with a whole load of new changes as well, such as performance issues, bug fixes, and a whole load of things like that. But if there are any other features that I did miss, make sure to let me know in the comments, and let me know what your favorite part of this brand new Minecraft update is, and make sure to subscribe.